Hi everybody and welcome to this video about the Quest 2. So I've been lucky enough to get a Quest 2 and I wanted to test it not only from a headset point of view for VR but also for sim racing. Note that these are only my initial impressions and I think things will improve. So starting with the box and the unboxing, you can see it's got quite a cool design on the box. It kind of reminds me of an Apple product, all white. And then the actual inside box is this sort of eco-friendly material, but it's nicely packaged, so that's all that matters. And you can see that we've got two controllers, the headset, and a box that contains a charging cable. So the controllers remind me a lot of the CV1 controllers in size. Actually using them, they're quite good from a tactile feedback point of view. They felt a lot better than the Rift S controllers, for example. And ultimately, they do the job. Since this is a sim racing thing, I won't really talk too much about the controllers. The headset itself is a lot lighter. It's got this fabric band instead of the halo strap like the Rift S, and you can get an Elite strap, which is a lot more comfortable apparently, but I haven't tried it. Overall, the design of it is pretty cool, quite minimalist, very light actually, surprising, and the lenses are the same as the original Quest. But there is a difference in the sense that the IPD adjustment is by pushing the lenses side to side rather than on the old CV1 notch on the bottom. So here's my old CV1 headset next to the new Quest 2. Size wise it's slightly smaller I think, although I've got a VR cover on the CV1 so it's hard to tell. And you can see the controllers here, kind of similar sort of shape. So one thing that is definitely different between the old Rift and this new Oculus Quest 2 is by default the speakers are built into the side of the straps. A bit like the Rift S, it will kind of blow noise down to your ears. It actually worked quite well, but if you need better sound you can obviously plug in a headset like this, and I'm sure there'll be better solutions that come out in the future. One of the main differences between the old CV1 headset that I've got and this new Oculus Quest 2 is the fact that you don't need sensors anymore. The Quest 2, just like the Quest, has the ability to look out into its surrounding and figure out its tracking from there. And as far as my testing has gone, it's felt pretty flawless to be honest. Let's just have a look at the Quest 2 in its native usage. So this is a standalone unit. The Quest 2's resolution is 1832 by 1920 per eye, which is almost comparable or maybe even slightly better than the Index. It's almost double what the Rift CV1 was, and it's certainly a step up from the Quest one as well. So you can see here I'm using hand tracking as well to actually navigate around the menu. You can use the controllers, but equally you can use hand tracking. And inside it looks great. The resolution is crisp, there's no screen door, and the colours are great, and ultimately it's really, really impressive. So on top of this, when you're using it in Quest mode, you can actually double tap the side of the headset to make it go into pass-through mode, which lets you see the room, you can move around, double tap again, and you're back in the home screen. Really, really impressive stuff. So since this video is all about sim racing, and the Quest 2 natively doesn't really have any sim racing titles, what we're really looking at is using Quest 2 as a PC VR headset. So to enable this to work as a PC VR headset, you need to use a Oculus Link cable. Now it's quite an expensive cable for what it is, and it just connects into the Oculus Quest 2, and then from a kind of software point of view it just thinks and behaves like a normal PC VR headset. Now this isn't entirely true, as I found out. Ultimately the way this works is it actually compresses the image and decodes it on the headset itself, and currently that adds a bit of compression that loses you quality, especially compared to just using the native Quest 2 in its own native standalone way, but it also adds a bit of latency, and so far I've been noticing about 40 milliseconds of latency, which is quite a lot considering the old CV2 I think had about 19. The other thing at the moment is that it currently only operates at 72 Hz or FPS. Now this is something that Oculus is promising they're about to update to work at 90, And as well as this, I think they're planning on really upping the amount of data that goes over it and the quality of the image. So we'll have to really wait and see to see what that really looks like. But for now, that is one way that you can use this headset as a PC VR headset. Okay, so on to probably one of the most important things. What's it actually look like inside the headset, and how does it compare to previous headsets that have existed? So I don't have the means to actually do this, but as said on the title here, Tyriel Wood VR Tech has got a great video all about this. He compares the Quest 2 to the Rift and the VIVE. So the Rift is basically the equivalent of my old CV1 that I use, and he does an amazing job of basically comparing through the lenses in not only these three headsets but also things like the Index, the Vive Pro and stuff like that. So I'm going to put a link in the description to his video, and I'm definitely recommending checking it out. So you can see here he does a bit of comparison in Assetto Corsa. Obviously he's got a video of this, so a lot better than this still from his video. And you can sort of see the Vive and the Rift is a bit more pixelated than the Quest 2. Now what I'd say here is that using the current Link, I don't think is at maximum resolution. I think it's using Quest 1 refresh rate and Quest 1 resolution currently, and there might be a bit of compression due to the way Link works. So I'm expecting Link updates soon to really improve this. On the whole though, the key takeaway is within the headset, screen door effect is largely gone. The resolution is noticeably better. So I think in his comparison, I think he potentially does one where he actually says it's almost the same as an Index in the quality and the brightness levels and everything else. So real step up. So here we are in iRacing in the Quest 2, and the difficulty here is I'm obviously capturing it externally, not what it looks like in a headset. So it's really hard to get across how much crisper this looks compared to the CV1. We'll just have a look at the CV1 in a second just to compare. But as I said in the previous section, because we're using Oculus Link at the moment, and because that's limited to 72 Hz, you'll see that the frames per second is stuck about 71, 72 frames. Now, that's not really ideal for situations where you're sliding the car around. The lack of frames per second just mean that it takes a little bit longer to actually see certain things happen. And I noticed that when you wiggle the wheel left and right very quickly, either the frames per second or the latency that I mentioned earlier just slightly catches you out. It's just not quite the same as what it was before. Now don't get me wrong, it's completely usable. I think if you're using the Link for a normal game like Half-Life Alyx, you'd have absolutely no issue at all. I think if you're doing something very fast-paced like Beat Saber on expert mode, or I think personally driving a sim like this, you're just going to be slightly putting yourself off. It will kind of almost not be noticeable, but that slight latency will just mean that you're reacting to things a bit slow. So if you only really like jumping in and having a bit of fun, I think it's completely fine. But I think if you're looking to compete competitively, I don't think the Quest 2 is right there at the moment. That said, Oculus is promising this update, so hopefully that update will come out. We'll get 90 Hz, better quality, and more importantly, better latency. Okay, so if we just jump straight back to the pits, looking at the pure UI elements in this headset, it's so much clearer and crisper. I can read the text really easily. These buttons here, I never used to know what they even said. Now it's just clear. I'm leaning in, but I don't actually need to lean in at all. All the text is really clear, and this is something that the original Rift, because of its screen door effect and lower resolution, just couldn't do very well. So just to remind myself what the original Rift was like, this is the CV1 original Rift. You can see that we're now at 90 frames per second, and I think the difficulty is that actually via what you're seeing, it's not the same as what I see in the headset. The headset is a lot more pixelated. As I said before, you've got the screen door effect. The text is all a bit more blurred, and yeah, this doesn't really represent exactly how unclear it is in the old Rift compared to the new Oculus Quest 2. That said, even in here, I can notice, watching this back, that it's a bit more pixelated. It's not as crisp as the old headset was. So I can definitely notice the latency is a lot better now. 90 frames per second, and also I think just general lower latency because we're not compressing and uncompressing the image. Which just means that the car just feels like I can control it easier, because as it moves and it changes direction, I've got a better control over it. I think what this has really made me actually wonder is, for things like the index that can run at like 120 hertz, or I think it could even run higher than that potentially, is that even better? Like, if you have that sort of refresh rate, do you actually get even lower latency and you can actually catch slides even easier? So here I've tried to compare Rift CV1 to Quest 2, but it's kind of pointless because what you're seeing isn't what you see through the headset. And if you look through the headset, there's a massive difference, which you're just not capturing here. That said, there are still some noticeable things. So you can see on the top, things do look a bit crisper, especially if you look at that weave on the carbon fibre. It's just a little bit washed out in the old Rift, and it's a lot crisper in the new headset. Similar to this, if we look at the buttons, the ones on the old Rift look a bit more jaggedy, and they look a bit more crisper on the new headset. And finally, just looking just generally, I think it is noticeably a bit crisper overall on the top compared to the bottom. Ultimately, there's a higher resolution on the top, but in the headset it can actually display that resolution so much better. And so the key takeaway is, if you look back at Tyriel's video, the Rift versus the Quest 2 on the amount of pixels it displays and the crispness and the screen door, trust me, in the actual headset there's a huge difference here. So I won't actually do a comparison on this one. This is just Assetto Corsa Compensoni in the new headset, and to me, and I don't know about you as a viewer, but to me in the headset this is so much sharper, so much clearer than the old Rift was. Reading the text, like reading the dash in front of me, reading the buttons, it's completely clear, whereas previously it would be a bit of a blurry smudge. As well as this, if you just look out the window, you can read clearly things like Brands Hatch that's on the wall. The rain looks really detailed. The buttons on the steering wheel look really detailed. This is just not what it looked like in the Rift CV1. So here it's really detailed. All the signage, the people, the crowds, I can see it so much more clearly. The colours still look good to me, and yeah, it's just a marked improvement over what I was seeing in the Rift. Now, it's said ultimately you still got the same problem that we had when we look at iRacing. The Quest 2 is only running at 72 Hz, therefore it does feel a little bit laggy. Latency obviously still won't quite be up there either, so this is something I really hope they're going to fix in the near future, and it will make this headset so much better. But for now, this looks really good. So even though this video is mostly focused on sim racing and thinking about using the Oculus Quest 2 via the Link cable, I can't make a video about the Oculus Quest 2 without mentioning what some people are doing with virtual desktop and Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 5 routers. Essentially, as you can see in these two videos here, by Virtual Reality Oasis and Kaz and Chazzy VR, they are both demonstrating how to make your Oculus Quest 2 work completely wirelessly as a PC VR headset. Now, that is pretty incredible. The Quest 2 in a wireless sense is brilliant, but actually to run PC games wirelessly is even better. Now, in both these videos, they actually show running 90 Hz on the headset, so not 72 like I already had, and they've got it pretty low latency using Wi-Fi 6 routers. Unfortunately, I don't have a Wi-Fi 6 router, so I can't really test this, but I have tested it on my rubbish router that I've got. It's just a normal ISP router, and it sort of worked. It just didn't have quite the latency that I'd want. I'm really interested though to see not only what it'd be like with a Wi-Fi 6 router, but also what Oculus might bring out in the future themselves. So for now, definitely watch this space, because this is a huge plus for the headset. I can't make a video about the Oculus Quest 2 without talking about probably the biggest con of using this device. Now currently, if you use a Rift, you can use it with your own Oculus account that has nothing to do with Facebook, even though Facebook owns Oculus. Now to use the Quest 2, they request you to merge your Oculus account with Facebook. Now that's really annoying in its own right, because basically Facebook's known to data mine everything you do, and who knows what they're going to do with that data, probably end up putting adverts in your headset eventually. The other downside is loads of users are actually finding that they get banned because they're using either brand new Facebook accounts because they don't have Facebook, or second Facebook accounts that aren't their real ones, or just old accounts that they haven't used for a long time, which is crazy. You've bought an Oculus Quest 2 and then you can't use it because Facebook has banned you. So this is a really, really bad thing. I've seen a few posts about potentially jailbreaking the device so that you don't actually have to use a Facebook account. But yeah, this is probably the biggest con and probably why the device is so cheap. In conclusion, should you get a Quest 2? I personally think if you don't have a VR headset, this is probably the best bang for buck you can get right now. It's $299 or £299, and considering it's giving you visual clarity that is in the same ballpark as an Index for almost a quarter of the price, it's without question great value. I think the fact that it's inside out tracking, so you don't need any base stations or sensors, is also brilliant. Both the VIVE and the Rift and the Valve all have base stations you have to put around and sensors, wires everywhere. This is just great because it's completely able to run as a wireless unit that has no sensors. The hand controllers are really good. The screen clarity, as I've mentioned, is really great. The sound's not bad, and ultimately, as I've touched on earlier in this video, the upcoming updates to the Link and potentially what people are going to do with virtual desktop or wireless PC gaming, it really, really will be a great device. The question is, right now, is it a good device for sim racing? And I personally think no, not right now. Probably wait a bit longer, wait for the Link update to come out, see what happens from that, and then get it if you want to use it for sim racing. So apologies to anybody that wanted a more in-depth video. This was thrown together quite quickly, but hopefully it's given some of you ideas about what this headset can be used for and how it compares to the original Rift. If you liked the video, please hit that like button, and if you're new here, please hit that subscribe. Cheers everybody.